Hi, guys. Thank you to everyone for being here today. My name is Natalie Sanadaji, and when I'm not busy asking everyone to please come back in the room and get seated, I am the Public Affairs Officer at the Combat Anti-Semitism Movement. So nice to see all of your faces today, a lot of familiar faces. We have an incredible panel here for you today, the inclusion illusion, when progressive spaces exclude Jews. And I want to get started with a simple but important idea. Inclusion isn't just about who is invited into a space, it's about who feels safe, who feels heard, and fully able to show up as themselves once they're there. So many progressive movements often define themselves by values like justice and inclusion. But in recent years, many Jewish individuals have found themselves navigating a very different reality. One where expressing their identity, their connection to Israel, or even speaking about anti-Semitism can come with social, professional, and personal consequences. For some, that looks like being asked to stay silent. For others, it means being excluded altogether. And for many, it creates a constant pressure to choose between belonging and being authentic. This conversation isn't just about rejecting progressive values, it's about asking whether those values are being applied consistently and what happens when they're not. We're incredibly fortunate to be joined by three individuals who have each experienced this tension firsthand, and who have chosen in different ways to speak up, stay engaged, and challenge the spaces that they're a part of. So let's get started. I want to start off by introducing you to our amazing speakers. We have here with us Brianna Wu, here in the middle. Entrepreneur, democratic strategist, and commentator focused on technology, democracy, and online culture. Brianna is best known as one of the targets of Gamergate. A former progressive congressional candidate, she famously left the movement after October 7th over anti-Semitism and has become an outspoken Zionist. Give it up for Brianna. Next to me, we have Yuval David, an Emmy award-winning journalist, filmmaker, actor, internationally recognized advocate focused on combating anti-Semitism, extremism, and disinformation while advocating democratic values, civil rights, and Jewish, American, Israeli human rights, and LGBT causes. Yuval David is also a leading voice across American, Israeli, and international media. He appears regularly on major global news networks as a commentator, a geopolitical terrorism, US and Middle Eastern affairs, media narratives, and cultural influence. Woo! Give it up. Woo! And last but not least, we have Tanya Tsikhanovsky. I apologize. Nobody says my last name correctly.
Listen, my life has been difficult since elementary school. Tsikhanovsky.
Tsikhanovsky. She's a first-generation American whose parents immigrated from the former Soviet Union with the support of the Jewish Federation. She's a proud Jew, unapologetic Zionist, and outspoken advocate dedicated to strengthening Jewish identity, supporting Israel, and combating anti-Semitism. Tanya is also an openly gay woman and lifelong advocate for the LGBT equality. Woo. Since October 7th, Tanya has devoted her work full-time to confronting anti-Semitism through media and public advocacy. A content creator who has amassed millions of views, her commentary has appeared on Fox 11 Los Angeles, Newsmax, and Jewish Journal, among other outlets. Give it up for Tanya.
Hi, everyone.
So we're going to start off with a question that is really for all three of you, so we could go in order, starting with Yuval David. Can each of you share a moment where you felt the most pressure to either stay silent, downplay your Jewish identity, or conform to a narrative that didn't feel honest?
I don't conform to anybody's narrative. I conform to truth and facts. When people target or respond or are triggered and say, actually, we were just speaking about this earlier today. I was on BBC News on a panel with a white, lesbian, non-binary, formerly Christian person who supports resistance by any means necessary. And we were there speaking about Middle Eastern affairs. And she said to me twice on air, she said, Yuval, all you're doing is sharing all this information, but I know how I feel. And I said, well, therein lies the problem, because you are forcing facts to fit your opinions as opposed to shaping your opinions based on facts. So the concept of the narrative, which is one that was so deeply spoken about throughout my 20 years in LGBT advocacy. I used to be a Democrat, I used to be progressive, I used to be woke, now I'm awake. And I learned the sensitivity of language, and I was able to use it. Hearing narrative, this is my narrative, this is my narrative. I get it, we're all a hero in our hero's journey, and we have a story, but we need to focus on the facts, and we need to focus on the values.
Thank you, Yuval. Brianna?
So a time that I was canceled for basically speaking the truth about Israel, do you mean this week? Do you mean today? Do you mean over the last 2 years? I am literally, like, go look at threads right now. I am getting mega canceled right now for saying in the Middle East, they kill LGBT people, which is a fact. It's exactly what you're saying. They have a narrative, they don't want to hear it. The problem with this is if you tell the truth, God forbid the truth might sound Islamophobic. You know, these are people that literally cannot imagine being in danger. You know, like Matt Bernstein, even today, he just interviewed a progressive candidate, right? What was her name? Michelle Morrow, right? He's never run from a missile in Israel, right? He won't go to Israel. He doesn't understand this. We have people that are fundamentally untethered from reality. They're living in a delusion, and they've moralized literally everything. We can't get the truth out there because they have a moral narrative that stops us from telling the truth. If I get anything across to everyone here today, it's this. We are in a swear-to-God information war. It is total spectrum warfare. They are trying to eliminate Jews from civil society at every single level, economically, socially, in media. They want to get rid of you. And if we don't start fighting back by getting real institutions built out to get the truth out there, everyone that can tell up from down and left from right and black from white, we are just dead. This is a top mission for everyone that is a Zionist.
Thank you, Brianna.
So the question you asked was about feeling pressure to hide your identity. I'm going to assume that each of us in this room at one point or another felt pressure to hide something about our identities, regardless of what it is, not necessarily even being Jewish, for example, right? I think I've been pretty well equipped with dealing with the pressure of hiding Jewish identity because I have been an other in every room I've been in my entire life. In most straight spaces, I'm the only lesbian. In most gay spaces, I'm the only Zionist. In LA, I'm a Republican, okay? And if you look around the room, no one else in here looks like me other than Zach. But that means that I have always been othered. And since I came out of the closet when I was 14, I did so in front of an all-school assembly. I was the first person in my high school to come out, and I started the Gay Straight Alliance. So I know what it's like intimately to have to walk alone. So on October 7th, and subsequently October 8th, when I was playing basketball for a West Hollywood rec league, again, I'm nearly 40, at the time I was 37. This is an adult rec league. We are reliving our glory days here, okay? And I was one of the only Jews. Now, these people knew me as a Jew. I have been highly Jewish online for over a decade, so this isn't a new phenomenon. I have a Jewish star tattooed on my arm that's also been there for over a decade. I went to grad school through NYU in Israel. I staffed birthright trips. I was a Hillel director. All of this is what everyone in the league already knew. And they were my friends predating October 7th, or so I thought, which I'm sure all of you have similar experiences. Now, as soon as October 7th happened, I walk into the gym a few days later, and the same people that were at my house, eating off my plates, seeing the menorah on my table over Hanukkah and seeing the mezuzah on my door and still came over, now don't want to hug me, now don't want to talk to me. Instead of asking me how I'm feeling, because hey, I lived in Israel and they all knew that. So they knew that I had friends, I had family. No one even cared to ask, they turned their back on me. Now, instead of running away, I tattooed an Israeli flag on my leg so that every time I played defense, they got to see that. And that felt great. And that was one of the ways that I fought back with pride. Now, I will say that when you talk about finding your voice in those spaces, I have found that not having a voice is way worse. It's harder on you as an individual. It's harder on you mentally, emotionally. It is easy for me to be here and be myself. Now, what's wild is that in the spaces that I have spent my whole life advocating for, and mind you, have been the spaces that we as Jews have built. If you look at social justice as a whole, we have been involved in everything. Literally everything. The civil rights movement, suffrage, unions, anything that has dealt with the little guy or being the other, we have fought for it. And gay people especially have the right to get married thanks to a Jewish lesbian couple that took it to the Supreme Court. So when gay spaces now tell me that I am not welcome because I'm a Zionist, I mean, guys, I am a mile away gay. That means you can see that I'm gay from a mile away. And you're telling me that I'm not welcome in gay spaces because I'm a Zionist from the one country in the Middle East that will actually not throw me off a building? That is not only stupid and embarrassing, it's also just very painful. And I think that we here have just gotten used to the pain. And
Absolutely.
maybe that's why it is easier for us to be loud and be proud, because we have already been living and breathing pride. And so I think a lot of the Jewish advocates here can really take in some way a lesson out of our playbook and be out and come out. And if you're a Republican in a Democratic space, come
out of the conservative closet. I mean, Tanya, something Tanya and I, because we were just hanging out in LA recently when me and actually Deborah, who's here as well, launched the Jewish-Indian Alliance. We had this massive event. And then Tanyushka and I hung out and we're just chatting about life. On October 7th, I have friends who were murdered, I have friends who were kidnapped. And I already had the platform from being a Jewish advocate and activist for decades, being on air, being a news commentator, doing all of these things for our people in a very public format. And I used that format to advocate for my friends and for the children of my friends and for all, and you know, everything that so many of us have done. And what was so painful was that other than losing actual friends who were unalived, was losing what seems to be 75 or 80% of my friends here in the United States who are now former friends. And it was regularly painful. People who came, like Rachel, wherever you are, who'd come to my Shabbat dinners, who meet my mom, who would eat the food that I would cook for them, and then after October 7th, send a social media video saying, F you, Yuval, free Palestine. And it was like this feeling of, how could you have said that you were my friends? How could you have been the +1 at my film screenings or come with me to the news studio and then shared and spewed such hate? I'm a grandchild of Holocaust survivors. I was raised to understand, as my brother and my cousins and I decided amongst ourselves, that we have no right to complain about anything because it's not as bad as the Shoah. It's not as bad as the Holocaust. Our grandparents never told us that. They wanted us to live and feel and do everything, but we next to them felt, how could we complain about anything? And what arose was, actually, I had a conversation with my brother soon after October 7th, and he reminded me of a game that he and I used to play where we'd go out into the woods and build mud forts and mud balls and get like really dirty. How our mom let us back into the house, I really don't know. But we would look at all of the neighbors' houses and we said, if this was the Shoah, who would hide us? Who would help us? Who would fight with us? And who would turn us in? And he said this to me as he was seeing the pain I was feeling by losing so many friends who turned against me because I am a Jew, because I am Israeli, because I am Zionist, because I speak out about politics. And it was like, wow, it was this wake-up call that we all recognize. Now, here's something that I learned from all of the LGBTQIA2S plus advocacy that I used to do, and now I'm truly just LGB and T of a certain age.
MIP.
Yeah.
You know.
T of a certain age. But that's how I roll now. I've cut off a bunch of letters and just focused on the values. But the point is, Pride is not just a month. Pride is not a march or a parade. Pride is something that we must have within us in every space that we go. My advocacy that I did for the LGBT communities and dozens of organizations, from the National LGBTQ Task Force to HRC to GLAAD to lobbying on Capitol Hill, made me a more impactful Jewish advocate, Zionist advocate, and now actually conservative and Republican advocate. Because it's about values. So when you use the word unapologetic, and I love you and I adore you and you're a queen, you know, par excellence, why unapologetic? What? I don't have anything to apologize for. I'm not an unapologetic Jew. I'm a proud Jew. I'm an educated Jew, a confident Jew. I'm a fighting Jew, and I'm a Jew for all of you.
I love that. Thank you. No, I love it. You're right. You're right. You're 100% right. My next question, we can go in order again, is what is the biggest misconception that you've dealt with personally about Jews and progressive spaces that you feel needs to be challenged right now? Maybe something that some other people in the audience haven't heard because they're not in the spaces that you're in.
In progressive spaces, we keep hearing the propaganda, misinformation, and actually purposeful disinformation that has spread across the progressive spaces. Years ago, I would raise the red flag and go to leaders of the 10,604 Jewish organizations that exist in the United States, which means there's one Jewish organization for every 780 Jews. We'll unpackage that later. Maybe Sasha can do something about that. And I went to them and said, I am noticing anti-Semitism rising, especially in the spaces that I exist. I need your help. Queers for Palestine has been coming for me and trying to dox me and silence my speeches since 2016. And people said, oh no, they're just a little group, don't pay attention to them. And I said, no, it's a cancer. And anybody in this room who has dealt with cancer or has loved ones who had cancer understands that cancer untreated spreads. And it was spreading and spreading. And I went to leaders of organizations, went to people at the Knesset, went to the Agudah Lahatabit in Israel, went to Jewish org after Jewish org, and Zionist org, and conservative orgs, and Christian orgs saying, you know, if you're truly a Christian, here, I need your help right now. You can help me because you understand values. And silenced. And now I keep hearing people say, oh, Yuval, you will forever have I told you so rights. I don't want I told you so rights. We can't change the past, but we can change the future. And that is what we need to do, because the cancer has spread throughout our movements. If you would have told me years ago that I would no longer be a Democrat on the LGBT Council of the DNC, active in progressive movements, that I would have voted for Donald Trump, that I would be a Republican and conservative and doing all these things, I'd been like, really? But being a Democrat and progressive defines who I am. But I learned that it's not what defines me. It's my values that defined me. It's not my identity as a gay male, as a Jew, as an Israeli American, as a Zionist that defines me. It's my actions that define me.
Thank you, Yuval.
So I have a lot to say about that. So I want to back up for just a second here and say, I don't know how many non-Jews are here today, but I'm not Jewish. I have no dog in this fight. I have no reason to talk about this stuff. It has literally been like setting my career on fire. And, you know, I'm happy to do it. It's the right thing to do. I want to back up for a minute and tell you my story about why I care so deeply about this. So when it was about 2004, I was literally the first trans woman to ever transition at the University of Mississippi, which was transitioning on ultra hard mode. And the only allies I had back then in 2004 were Jews at Ole Miss in the South. that stood up for me, that gave me a pathway to get my name changed, that dealt with bigots that were trying to dehumanize me and kick me out of classes. You know, this is a story. I literally broke my glasses at one point, and because my family had disowned me, I couldn't see. I literally only had one lens. And I had a Jewish professor that gave me a pair of her glasses because it was close enough to mine. And I used those for 3 years as I was trying to get my feet out from under me. Jews were there for me in my darkest hour. They were there for us during Gamergate. Y'all were there for us during Me Too and Black Lives Matter. And after October 7th, I was like, of course, this is the time for us to stand back and show some damn reciprocity. And I have just been astonished that no one seems to give a flying fuck about y'all. It is a profound moral failing. It is offensive to me on a fundamental level that we can say this person counts, this person gets to speak, this person matters. It is identity politics, but then this person doesn't get to speak. That's why I talk about this. That's why I'm happy to stand with you. I also respectfully want to give a warning here, because I understand why y'all are in pain. I understand why you vote Republican. I understand why the progressive spaces have run you out. I have to point out that party is eliminating people like me from public life. Trans women are being forcibly detransitioned in prison. It was just made a felony for me to pee in a certain state where I will spend 5 years in a men's prison. I can't even pee in the state we're in right now legally. There is a very cruel project going on. I think our fates are interlinked, because I think we can have an America where we get back to these liberal values, where everyone's opinion counts, everyone's dignity counts, everyone gets to speak, or we can keep factionalizing, where everyone's individual pain drives this conversation where we're just trying to eliminate the other person. I think we've seen where that goes.
I hear what you're saying, and I agree, and also respectfully disagree. One of the reasons that I became a Republican is because I work on Capitol Hill on a daily basis. I had to be where I have the most amount of impact for the Jewish people, for America, American values, and for Israel. I had more impact in the Republican Party. Now, when we talk about liberalism and progressivism and what the Democratic Party was supposed to afford us, the Democratic Party failed us, including as the LGBT people. So we definitely have a challenging road ahead, but it's about where do we have the most amount of impact that will help and protect us.
When it comes to working on this legislation, I have to work with Republicans every single day. I 100% get it. What I'm saying is there's a challenge for liberal democratic values. And I don't mean the left here. I mean this idea that all of us counts. And I think Israel is a beautiful beacon of this. When you go over there to Israel, there's not Arabs and Jews, there's Israelis. And they're under attack is beautiful to see. And I think that is a lesson we could learn here in the United States.
So you were asking about progressive spaces and what it's like for us being Zionists in them, right? So in particular, West Hollywood, as everyone, or who those of you who don't know, West Hollywood in Los Angeles is like the gay mecca. It's about, actually population-wise, is 48% gay. The first gay bar I ever went to was in West Hollywood. It was in the Abbey. That's what it's called. It's still there. So something that a lot of you probably don't know is that during Pride Month last year, leading up to it, there are, parties and events that are getting planned. And one of the events is called Dyke Day. And Dyke Day has been around for about 18 years, and it switches through different parks around Los Angeles. But I think this year it was at Sycamore Park. And leading up to the event, they made an announcement that Zionists were not allowed. The Zionists were banned to attend. Now I'm still trying to figure out how we can sue them over this. And so if you guys want to get involved in the lawsuit, let me know. I think a few orgs are getting involved. But when they made that statement, of course I wasn't going to listen to this. Now, I have a lot of friends that do not want to keep walking into the spaces that hate us. And I do understand that. I wouldn't necessarily walk into a mosque personally. For me, I wouldn't. But gay spaces are still Jewish spaces, okay? There are still Jewish gay people. So I can't leave that space because anywhere I am still gay. So I want to make sure that the gay spaces that are kicking us out actually let us back in and keep us in there. So what I did last year was get a group of queer Zionists together. I wore a shirt that said Israel on it. We hired undercover security, and we walked around the entire park, and we made sure every single person saw us and saw me and made eye contact, and some spit and some yelled. I had 2 Jewish women run up to me and tell me that I was not welcome because I'm wearing a shirt that says Israel. Now, I mean, this is really mind-boggling to me because these are Jewish women. Women, like specifically Jewish women inside of the gay community, are being pushed the most to be outspoken against Israel, because Jews have always been known to be the social workers, the social justice fighters, as I said it before. Jewish women, more than any group of people, are the social workers. So we are taught and bred, and so much of our values as Jews is to care about progressive values. So what I think we need to do is remind people that being Jewish is a progressive value. Think about the things that we care about. Think about the things that we're involved in. Think about Israel as being a country that accepts everyone. Now, one of the things that they're doing on the other side is discussing pink washing. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that term or not.
Queers for Palestine recently referred to me as the #1 pink washer.
Love that. There we go.
I'm surprised it's not one of you two. It should be one of you.
I'm jealous they didn't include me in that.
It should have been you.
Apparently, from what pink washing is this concept that Israel is using their friendliness to gay people as a way to justify that they're killing Palestinians. Okay, that's the mental gymnastics is on another level, especially when Israel actually gives asylum to Palestinians that would otherwise be under threat. So in any case, I know that we need to wrap up, but what's the most important thing for me is to make sure that we remain authentically ourselves and proud and visible. And if we can maintain that through all of our identities, whatever they are, it'll force our neighbors to accept us. That is how marriage equality happened, because enough gay people were gay enough. So please, as Zionists, be more Zionist, be more loud, be more visible. It empowers people, okay?
I have to add one thing onto this. It's fantastic for us to all be publicly Zionist. We should do that. The strategy has to change. If Israel can put together a beautiful beaver attack and knock out Hezbollah commanders, my God, can we get fucking Emily Schrader, her own Piers Morgan show, to go up against these people? The information warfare strategy has got to change, and we've got to start funding people that are willing to go toe-to-toe with these liars and push back on this public narrative.
And, you know, I want to make it clear that I'm not here just to knock the progressive movements and the Democratic Party that I've been part of. Ultimately, it's about doing the right thing. I don't care if you're Republican, if you're Democrat. I care about the actions that you do. So often we talk about tikkun olam. Every bar bat mitzvah boy says tikkun olam is what I'm focusing on. The tikkun has to happen for us as well. We cannot only create space for others, we must also create the space for us. So when we are kicked out of spaces, like I was assaulted and attacked with my group during the World Pride March in Washington, D.C., and people were cheering Jews ruined pride, Zionists go home, as we were being physically assaulted. And we kept marching. We kept moving forward, because something that the Jewish people do and Zionist people do is we don't fight back. We fight forward. We are optimistic. We know that dark times are here, darker times are yet to come, but we believe that something is going to be better. So whether I join the Democratic Party again and march with you, I'm always going to march with you anyway. So that's what it's about. It's about coming together from a place of strength and unity.
Thank you. Thank you to all of our panelists. You guys are truly, on a daily basis, on the front lines of this misinformation war. You're really all an inspiration to all of us. So thank you. Give it up for our panelists.
Thank you. Thank you.